Welcome back. This is another video in my Linux for Beginners series. Um, if you have a Mac or a Windows instead of a Linux machine and you would like to follow along, the first video in this series, I show you how to download VirtualBox, spin up a virtual machine, and install Ubuntu Desktop on it. And I would recommend either doing that to follow along, or if you have a Linux machine, you can follow along on there. Even so, if you're a beginner and you're just learning, I would recommend spinning up a virtual machine. Even if you're on Linux, you can download VirtualBox. You can follow my tutorial in my last video. You can download a VirtualBox and spin up a virtual machine and set Linux up on there. And you might think, well, if I already have Linux, why would I do that? And the benefit is in your virtual machine, you can mess around and break stuff without worrying about any lasting effects. Because if you mess something up real bad, you just delete your virtual machine and create a new one, and you start from square one, and you're not out anything. So I would recommend that, especially if you're just new. I'm going to be talking about some beginner command line stuff today, and then in my next video, I'm going to do some slightly more advanced command line stuff, but we're going to be learning all kinds of stuff that theoretically could mess up your machine if you do stuff wrong. So it'd be good to do it in a virtual machine. So if you're following along and you have your virtual machine spun up, go ahead and click on the 9 dots and then type in terminal. And the terminal is this little icon here. Once you open it up, you'll notice it adds an icon to this left nav. If you right click that and click add to favorites, that'll keep it here so that if you close it, it stays there and it's easy to find again. You don't have to go search for it every time. So I would do that. And then I'm going to make this guy a little bit bigger so that you can see a little better, hopefully. Okay. Let's look at this for just a second. Here in the UI, I'm going to click this folder finder icon. I clicked it twice. Whoops. Okay, when I open this folder up, you'll notice there's all these other folders. And if I click onto any of those, right now, I just barely spun this machine up, so I don't have anything in any of these folders. But all of my downloads would show up in here. Everything on my desktop would show up in here. There's nothing on my desktop. It kind of looks like there are, but these don't actually live in the desktop. They just have like shortcut icons on the desktop, I guess. If I click on the home folder, and I'm going to start calling them directories. A directory and a folder is the same thing, it's just a different word. So I'm going to click on the home directory. You'll see that there's a bunch of directories that live inside of here, and the desktop is one of them. So I can open up the desktop that lives inside of my home directory. And you might think, well, where does the home directory live? If you click on, this left arrow right here, that's like a back navigation. That's not doing what I thought it would. Click on this other locations. That's what I was trying to find. If you click on other locations and then click on computer, just in case you didn't see that, click on computer. You'll notice it shows you all of these folders that, like, what are these folders? What are they? And what this is saying is everything on your computer lives inside of this main root folder. I'm going to call it the root folder or the root directory. Okay, so here's all of this stuff. And you'll notice this root has an X on it. Actually, I've never done this before, so I'm curious what this is. Authentication is required to perform file operations. Interesting. I actually don't know what that folder is. But this, I guess it's like the root. I don't know. This is your root directory. Everything on the computer lives here. And I think what this actually is it's a folder called root, but it's like your administrator users folder. Anyways, I'm going to talk just for a second. I'm going to do it in the UI since it's maybe more familiar to people. But inside of your root directory, there's this folder called home. Here it is. If I open that up, all of the users that exist on this computer will have a folder in here. I spun this up yesterday. It's a brand new virtual machine, so this is the only user, is my user. But if I click on that, you'll notice that it takes me to my user's home directory, which is back where we just were, which has this desktop icon. So once again, everything on the computer lives here. If you open up the home directory, you can see all of the users. Each user's folder will have all of this stuff. So when I say that it's my user's home directory, it's my user's directory inside of the home directory, but same idea. So this is how you navigate using the mouse. Let's learn how to do all of that in the terminal here. So the command is it's just called change directory. You're saying I want to go to a new directory. So it's cd, which is short for change directory, and you can cd and then do a space, and then you tell it where you want to go. In this case, we're just going to do a /. This is the root directory. And so this is all that stuff that we saw here on the computer. This is the root directory, and this is the same thing in the terminal. And you'll notice I did that ls command. That lists out everything that's in the folder. So same way it's doing it here, it shows you what's directly inside of this folder, but if I want to see what's inside of the home folder, I have to go into the home folder. I need to change the directory into the home folder, and then I can see what's inside of there. So if I change directory into home, and then ls will show me what's in there. You'll notice this is the exact same thing as the UI. You can change directory, and then you can do ls to see what's inside of there. So if I go into Lauren, you're going to see all of these same folder names. Okay, so we've learned how to change directory into a folder. What if we want to go back up a level? You can do cd .. And that takes you up a level. cd .. Now we're back in the root. If you do cd .. here, it doesn't go anywhere because this is the root directory. Everything lives inside of here. So from here, if I want to go into the home directory and then my directory and then the desktop directory, you can chain the directories like this, and that's okay. This is going to go into the home, Lauren, and desktop. And my desktop is empty, but it worked. And if you do pwd, that's print working directory. That'll tell you what directory you're in. And in this case, I'm inside of home, Lauren, desktop. And you'll notice that it kind of gives you the same thing here. This blue stuff also tells you what your working directory is. This tilde is just short for your user's home directory. If there was more than one user on this machine and I went into the other user's directory, home directory, then the tilde wouldn't show. But if I do a cd into tilde, that takes me to my user's home directory, which is /home/Lauren. So that's a shortcut. If you ever, instead of going and typing this out every time, you can just type out cd tilde, and that'll take you to your user's home directory. And if you do who am I, all one word, it'll tell you what your user's name is. And in this case, this is the only user on the computer because I just spun this virtual machine up. But that'll tell you who your user is, and then cd tilde will take you to your user's home directory. ls shows you what's in the directory. You can cd into a directory. You can cd up a level like that with the .. And one thing that's worth noting, inside of my home directory, I have these 7 other, or 8, however many that is, these 8 other directories. If I do cd music, because the music directory exists in the same directory that I'm in right now, it knows what I'm talking about. And if I do cd music, it'll work, and it'll take me into the music directory. But if I'm in the root directory, and notice that there's no music directory in root. Music directory lives inside of my user's home directory. But if I do cd music right here, it's going to get confused. It doesn't know what I'm talking about. So I would have to tell it the absolute file path of where the music directory is. So I could say, I want you to start at root, go to home, go to Lauren, and then go to the music directory. And that would work. And of course, the shortcut for that would be tilde/music. So that's the absolute file path. You can use the relative file path if the thing that you're trying to go to lives in the same directory that you're in. So right now, if I'm in the home directory for my user, I could go into downloads, capital D. And it knows what I'm talking about. I don't have to do the absolute file path here of like /home/ whatever, because it's where I'm at. So that's called a relative file path. Same thing with the cd .. That's a relative file path. That's relative to where I'm at, go up one level. Okay, let's talk about making folders and files. So in the UI, you can like create things, right? I could right click and say new folder and call it folder 1. And now there's this other folder. So let's do the same thing here. If I go to the //desktop, and it would have worked if I just typed desktop because I was already in this tilde folder. But if you go to your home directory, desktop, and do ls, if you've created that folder one, yours will show it. If not, it might be empty here. But I can make a new directory, and it's just this command called make directory, and the command is really mkdir, short for make directory. Now if I do ls, I see folder 1 and folder 2. Make directory folder 3. Oh, I had a space, so I think it created 2 folders for me. That's funny. Okay, so now let's make a file. Let's make a file. It's called touch, and I don't know why it's that word. I'm not sure what the relevance is there, but you can do touch and then whatever file name you want. I did test.txt, and that file pops up. And now in the UI, if you open up a text file, it opens up this little text editor, and you can do stuff. You can save it. If I close, open the file back up, all that stuff will still be there because I saved it. What saving does is it writes the changes to the hard drive. And you can think of the hard drive like a piece of paper. You can read data off of the piece of paper. If you want to change what's on the hard drive, you have to write. You have to write the data. So writing data actually goes in and changes the bits. It goes in and saves the data to the hard disk. So that is how you edit a file in the UI. In the terminal here, there's a text editor that comes with Ubuntu Desktop called Nano. It's very user-friendly, very beginner-friendly. So you just do nano space and then the name of the file you want to edit. In this case, I'm editing test.txt. So once again, that's nano test.txt. Okay, once you're in here, you'll see that it's showing the exact same file we just were at. You'll notice that the mouse doesn't allow you to click around. In the terminal, everything is going to be on your keyboard basically. So you can use your arrow keys to move your cursor around, and then you can just type like you normally would and add text. Now, you'll see down at the bottom there's these little hints of what commands you can do. These are your keyboard shortcuts or hotkeys. So this one is, if you want to exit, you do Control X. And since I've done some changes, it's going to ask me if I want to save. It asks it in a weird way. It says save modified buffer. The buffer is just the changes on the screen that are saved in RAM right now but haven't been saved to the hard drive. So it's asking if I want to save these changes to the hard drive. If I hit the letter N for no and hit enter, oh, you don't even have to hit enter. If you hit N, I guess it just exits. So let's go back in there, nano test.txt. Now if I make some changes, Control X will try to exit. It sees I have unsaved changes. If I click Y for yes, now it's going to ask what file name I want to save it as. And you'll notice that it's using this word write instead of save. You can change the file name if you want, but I would just hit enter. We're just saving changes in the file. We don't need to change the file name. So nano test.txt, you'll see that the changes persisted, they saved. You can make some changes. Now, what if you want to save the file without exiting? Or what if you want to save it before you try and exit? That's this command here called write out, saying write these changes to the hard drive. So Control O, it's going to ask what file name you want, hit enter, and it's saved. So now if I open in the UI this test.txt, you'll notice that all of these changes are persisting. This is the same file. It's just a different way to look at it, is in the terminal. So now if I hit Control X, it'll exit without asking me if I want to save because I just saved. There's no unsaved changes. So that is nano. Control O and Control X are your two main keys there. You can edit the file and you can exit. There's other ones as well, but I'm not going to get into those today. Let's see, we know how to create folders, we know how to create files, we know how to edit files. What if I want to move a file? So in the UI, I can just drag and drop stuff, right? Move this into folder 1. Now if I go into folder 1, there it is. So let's learn how to do that in the terminal. It's the command move, MV for short, move. What do I want to move? I want to move test.txt space. Where do I want to move it? Let's move it into folder 2. So this is going to move test.txt into folder 2. Hit enter, and now ls, test.txt is gone, but if I cd into folder 2, there it is. So that's how you move it. What if I want to move it back out? mv test.txt. Where do I want to move it? I want to move it up a directory, so // Now in ls, and it's gone out of folder 2, but if I cd up a level, there it is. So that's how you move a folder or a file around. I could do the same thing with a folder, right? Move folder into folder 2. Now folder is gone, and if I cd into folder 2, there it is. Okay, what if you want to delete a file or a folder? I'm going to create a file called me.pdf. PDG, apparently. That was a typo. Oh well, we're about to delete it anyways. So if I want to delete a file, you do that by saying rm for remove me.pdg. Now if I click ls, it is gone. One thing to note, if you do this in the UI and I say move to trash, it'll pop up this little message that says it was deleted, but it didn't delete it. It just moved it into this trash folder. And if I go to the trash folder, you can see that it's still here. I can restore that, and it comes right back. So it didn't actually delete it. It just like moved it into the trash folder. But what if I drag one of these to the trash folder and then empty the trash bin? Now it deletes it. It's gone. It's not coming back. Okay? That's what rm does. If you rm something, it is gone. You're not going to find it in your trash folder. It's just gone. So if you're not certain you want to delete something, don't do the rm command on it. Let's see, where am I? What happens if I want to delete a folder? If I do rm folder, it's going to tell me that it can't do it because it's not a file, it's a directory. So what you have to do is you have to give it this -r flag. And that stands for recursive. So it's saying recursively remove this folder and everything inside of it. So it's gonna completely get rid of the folder and everything inside of it. Now it'll work, and then ls will show you that it's gone. Okay, so we know how to create folders and files. You can create a file with touch. You can create a folder with mkdir, make directory. You can edit a file with nano in the file name. What else did we do? We learned how to change directories using cd. You know how to list what's inside of a directory with ls. You know how to delete a file or folder. For a folder, use the -r flag. What if you want, we learned how to move something. I can move test.txt into folder 2. What about if you want to copy a file? So in the UI, I can do copy, and I can do paste, and it creates a copy of the file with all the same data in it. So in the terminal, that's the command cp, short for copy. Copy test.txt into new file.txt. And now ls, you'll see that it's there, new file.txt. So that's how you copy. What about copying a folder? Missing information. Oh wait, missing destination file after folder 2. That's right. Copy folder 2, and you have to tell it where you want it to copy to. If you want it to copy right where you're at, you just do a period. Same thing here. You need that -r flag because you're copying recursively the folder and everything inside of it. So copy -r, folder 2, copy it right here where I'm at. So because I tried to copy right where I'm at and I didn't give it a new name, it got mad. So what you can do is copy -r, folder 2, and then you can tell it right where I'm at, but name it folder 3. And now it copies it and names it folder 3. So, and one thing to note too is if you're doing this, I could copy it into the root directory from here. Well, my user doesn't have permissions to do things in the root directory, so that's a bad example. But I could say copy folder 2 into, I'm in tilde/desktop, so maybe I'll just copy it just into tilde. Now it works. And if I cd into tilde, you'll see that it copied folder 2 and it just used the same name because I didn't give it a new name. So if I go back into desktop, and now if I do that same thing again, copy -R folder 2, copy it into tilde and give it a name folder 8. Now if I cd over to tilde, you'll see that it copied it again and it gave it the name folder 8. So this second parameter, when you're doing a copy, you're telling it where you want it to copy to, and if you give it a name, it'll copy it to that name, if that makes sense. One other thing that's worth knowing is how to rename a folder or file, and really you just use that move command, which is an interesting way to think about it, right? If you want to move a file from here into this other folder, the move command makes sense. What if you want to move it from where you're at to where you're at, but just with a different name? So I could move test.txt to where I'm at, but name it test3.txt. And it doesn't move it anywhere, it just renames it. So that's how you rename things, is with the move command. What you're really doing is you are moving it, but you're just moving it to a new name, I guess. I don't know. Hopefully that makes sense. Trying to think if there's anything else. These are basically the basic commands. We know how to navigate the file system. We know how to create folders and files, delete them, move them around, copy them. That's basically it. The last thing I'm going to mention is if you cd back into your root directory, the /, what happens if I try and touch a file in here? So I'm going to touch test2.txt, and it's going to tell me that my user does not have permission to create files here. You'll notice that I already created one earlier. So what you can do is this sudo command, that stands for superuser do. Oops. Now it'll work. So what I'm saying is execute that same command, but do it as a super user rather than as my user. And the super user basically has permission to do anything. So if I hit enter, it's going to say enter your password. And then if I do ls, you'll see that it worked that time. So be careful what you use sudo for, because some of the stuff in here you're not meant to mess with. You're not meant to change it, right? Like what if I want to remove this dev folder? Let me ls, or let me cd into dev and do an ls, and you can see there's all these things. There's all this stuff, and this is a lot of that stuff is making my computer work properly. So if I do, let's remove the dev folder, it's gonna ask me this thing. If I say yes, go in there and delete stuff, it's gonna give me permission. Let's see, remove write protected block, and it's gonna say permission denied. My user does not have permission to do things in the root directory, and there's a reason for that, so you don't go mess stuff up on accident. So this is one of the benefits, first of all, of using a virtual machine, is if you mess everything up, you can just delete the virtual machine and create a new one, and no harm, no foul. If you do this on your main computer and you delete stuff you're not supposed to, you can really mess it up, and you can ruin it, so it won't work anymore properly. And then you have to reinstall the operating system. So that's one of the reasons I would recommend, if you're new and you're learning terminal commands, do it on a virtual machine. That way you don't have to worry about it. The other thing that I will say is be careful what you do with sudo, because if instead of that I did sudo rm-rdev, that'll work and it's gone, and that'll wreck my machine. So my virtual machine, I am in a virtual machine here, so it wouldn't matter too much, but just be careful what you do with the sudo command. In the next video, I'm going to talk more about files, permissions, folder and file permissions, and why my user doesn't have permission to do stuff in here, and how you could grant your user permission to different things. And that is it for this video. Thanks for watching.